In today's show, my cousin Jake, yes, we're going full Bill Simmons joins the program, and we talk about the future of the Trailblazers and the worst team in the playoffs that can win a championship. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine, make it your first listen, and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, making his podcast debut, the first person ever related to me to join the program, my cousin Jake, and the former voice of the Ogden Raptors. You know him from minor league baseball in the Rocky Mountain region. Jake, how you doing, man?
Very pleased to be the first member of the family joining the podcast. It's a big time honor, and I know all the folks back in Ogden are excited to check in with us as well.
They are chanting your name over in the dugout. Actually, they're probably on the bus somewhere somewhere brutal. It's a Thursday in minor league baseball. You know they're traveling, or they're in the middle of a 7-game series. We're going to talk about the Trailblazers today, and then we're going to shift in the second segment, or to close the show, rather, and talk about the worst teams in the league that we think can win the title. By way of sort of doing a playoff preview, we're going to talk about what we think the worst teams currently in the playoffs that can win a championship, and a kind of how we got to that reasoning. But let's start with your view as an outsider's view of the Trailblazers. I think importantly is sort of your bona fides here. You're a fan of the New Orleans Pelicans, like a major fan of the Pelicans. So you have a deep appreciation for a team, losing for its own good. I guess let's start here, and we can talk a little about the Pels in a second. Like, what is your sort of big picture elevator pitch on what your perception of the Blazers season this year?
Perception of the Blazers this year. Well, I got to tell you, I think you and I were talking at some point earlier in this season, and we were talking about how the Blazers were a little bit stuck at one point, kind of midway through the year. And I think like everybody else who follows the NBA, I was pleasantly surprised by the turn they made in the second half of the year. Silly season or not, they put together a run, won a lot of games. The defense picked up. A lot of the young players started to turn the corner and show something that was pretty impressive. So I would hope Blazer fans are at least feeling a little more optimistic by the end of the year than where things were, say, December or so.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I certainly, I think this was the most at least enjoyable season from a sort of broad fan perspective that the team's had in a half decade, because they had a lot of crappy ones before that. It's not a lot to pick from, but I guess they did make the playoffs in 2020 and 2021, sort of in 2020. Those are bubble playoffs, so I don't know if that counts. It was a weird year, but there was a brief fun moment during a very, very bad time. I wonder, though, is your perception that they are a team on the rise, or as you think they're a team where do you see the next steps potentially for this team?
Yeah, it's a great question. You mentioned I'm a Pelican fan, and so I'm unfortunately familiar with the lower middle of the Western Conference, and know what that's like, and I know what it's like to feel stuck there. And what I worry about for the Blazers a little bit is how they go from here to that next tier. Certainly, we talked about promising young group of players all throughout the lineup. I mean, really, you've got sort of the point guard up through center, and every position's filled with somebody that you're reasonably excited about, or who's already shown themselves to be a starter caliber player. What's tough is how to get this team over the hump to the point where the way that I always like to look at things is I think about this with a team that I follow is, okay, what is success? And I think success is when you get to a place where you are a top 4 seed in your conference, where you are favored to win a playoff series. And from there, anything can happen, right? If you are the odds-on favorite to win a first-round series, well, you are in the mix to be in the conference finals and going to the NBA finals and that sort of thing. And the Blazers, much as I like the progress that they showed in the second half of the year, I don't know how they bridge the gap from here to there, because I don't know that there's a competitive team in the West that they could face in a playoff series and make any kind of credible argument that they would have the best player in that series, probably that they would have one of the two best players in that series. And I'm not sure how they go about finding that player, especially having gotten good enough now that they are not in position to pick at the top of the draft, probably at any point in the coming years.
Yeah, I think that last part is the challenge, right? It's not just that they are picking 9th or 10th. I mean, they could win the lottery. We're recording this in April. Anything's possible, right? But it's not just that they're likely to be picking in the back half of the lottery this year. It's that they're kind of in a spot where it seems like they're competent, right? It seems like even if you think like you said, like the silly season, like even if you think they're not as good as they showed, they're not one of the awful teams. Like they're better than the truly bad teams. Some of those truly bad teams will rise, some other good teams will fall, but like they seem so entrenched in this without internal development. What you're banking on here for them, for their standpoint, is like Shaedon Sharpe becomes a star, Scoot Henderson becomes a star, and not just like star, but like all NBA type, right? Like, I mean, I don't know I think we could run through it. We don't have to do it now, but it's like, what is the threshold for being a top 4 team in the Western Conference, right? It's pretty high. I wonder from your Pelicans perspective right now, today, you're listening, dear listeners, to April 18th show. Would you rather be Portland or New Orleans?
From my perspective, this week, I would trade sort of the reverse Matt Ishbia, right? I mean, I would trade the Pelican situation for 26 other teams, and that's really because of the news this week around around the front office and kind of what it reveals about the direction of the franchise. But trading places with the Pelicans is not necessarily an indication that the Blazers are in a great spot, because as you said, what's the threshold for success? What does it take to get Scoot or Shaedon to the place where you are contending to be a home court advantage team in the first round? I mean, look at the playoff bracket this year. I mean, Houston being something of an exception because they do it by and large with depth and with hordes of athleticism and a lot of young players and so forth. But there's not a great best player on the Rockets. They're a bit of an anomaly because I think
they're dogs as the 2 seed in the West. Like they're going to go in. They won 52 games and they're going to start at home on the playoffs. Dogs
they're dogs because they're facing a first team All-NBA guy in the first round, right? And another one with playoff bona fides and so forth. And it only underscores the point because you look at the 1 seed. Okay, well, you've got the likely MVP there. You look at the 3 seed. You've got a guy who's in the MVP race every year, and then one of the greatest players of all time, and so forth. And 4 seed perennial MVP, right? So that's the bar we're talking about. And so as bullish as I am on many of the guys on the Blazers, and big Danny Avdija guy, I liked some of Donovan Klingham's rim protection. I like Shaedon's ability to score. I liked what Scoot did this year. I don't know how you could squint and see any of these guys being a third team All-NBA guy, let alone a first team guy. And that's the tough reality they're in.
Well, they're just going to nail this draft pick. They're just going to pick a star. That's all. That's simple as that. You just go in.
When Jace Richardson is there at 10, he's the guy, right?
Okay, Jace Richardson thing, and then we'll pivot a little bit. I have been calling Shaedon Sharpe. I'm like, a comp for him, maybe like a more reasonable one, is Jason Richardson, right? Like he's this guy who's like, he's a really good athlete. He can shoot. He's like a long-term starter on a bunch of good teams. I don't believe Jason Richardson made an all-star team, but it's like he was good for a long time in the league, right? And then it's like the Blazers are now in position to get like literally the Jason Richardson comp. It's like, whoops, maybe I screwed up.
It never hurts to have 2 of them, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 2 Jason Richardsons in this era would be useful. Really good athletes who can score at 3 levels. It has some value. Although
neither of them could guard the 3, and then neither of them's a point guard. And so even there, right? I mean, I know you're being facetious about you'd win a lot of dunk contests, and that's a great thing to have. It brings the entertainment value. But okay, so how do you build a Blazer lineup that that really gets to that next level? Hey, gosh, even if Jace were his father and Shaedon were Jace's father, I don't know. What does that do for you? You're
Yeah.
maybe the 8 seed, maybe.
Yeah, I wonder this. You are a big Denny believer. I'll give you your props here later in the show, but you are a big Denny believer. Is how much do you believe of this? You know, he was excellent after the All-Star break, right? He was 23, 9, and 5. How much of that is March basketball? How much of that is like a thing that you think he could repeat to some extent?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could put a percentage on it, but I think it's a little column A, little column B here. I mean, Denny, you know, I love the shooting improvement. I love that Denny was more willing to let it fire from three. I mean, the 3-point attempt rate went way up. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say he was like 6 or 7 per 36 by the end of the year, and that was really nice. Obviously, love the sort of like, you know, Josh Hart 2.0 and full court game, and the throwing you off with his shoulder, the physicality. He's a good player. I don't know that Denny Avdia is averaging 23 a game in December basketball, and more importantly in May basketball. There is a difference in March. But you know, that said, I loved what he did. I think he's a guy who can be a plus starter on a very good team. But I think you're more comfortable if he's your third or fourth guy.
Yeah, I think that's the real truth. Is like they found a dude who's really good, but what we're talking about here is not like finding good players. It's the absolutely absurd bar that it takes to be really good in the Western Conference in the NBA. The freaking Grizzlies are kind of a joke, and they won 48 games this year. Like, and they're going to get laughed out of the playoffs. We're recording this obviously before the final play-in games. Like, I would be. I will not be surprised at all if the Memphis Grizzlies are not competing in the bracket when all is said and done. I would not be even remotely surprised. And that's not just because I really like Brandon Williams off the Mavs bench. You know,
well,
it's
the Grizzlies have a lottery protected first to consider in tomorrow night's playing game. So
they
you know,
do.
I know
and
a lot
John
of Memphis
Morant's on the
folks,
injury report. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, do you really want to beat the Mavericks just so you can get swept by the Thunder next week? What's the point when you could be in position to, you know, have the 14th pick in the draft when the alternative is no pick at all? So
yeah, 0 pick. Yeah, exactly. That's the real problem. We're kind of talking about the bar here, and I think that's what I want to talk about in to close the show here. It's like, you know, it is freaking hard in the Western Conference. The Blazers, like, the best deal they could make is the deal that Memphis always tried to make with Hollinger at the helm. It's like, can we get to the East? Because there are just so many good teams. So what I want to do to close the show by way of like a playoff preview, and also kind of considering the Blazers' place outside of the playoff picture, is talk about the worst team that could win the NBA Finals, that could be a champion this year, who we think the worst team is. And that's kind of maybe a way that we can couch like where the Blazers hope to build to. Join us in that second segment, and we'll do just that. First, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. It's super easy to post your job. Plus, it's free, and within a day, you'll have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. And what Upwork's great skill is that if you have a specific need, Upwork can help you fill that specific need. Say your business needs help with a marketing campaign. Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who will deliver incredible results. And Upwork is going to find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business. And like I said, once you find talent, then you can create a long-term partnership if you need it from there. If that sounds like something your business needs, why not visit Upwork.com right now to post your job for free? That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, still chatting here with my cousin Jake. You remember him as the voice of the Stanford women's basketball team. Go Cardinal. Jake, who's
ACC's
the worst team?
Finest. Yeah.
Hey, I think Carolina's coming to Palo Alto next year. I believe they're going to be at the farm. You know who's going to be at the farm? Me. I'm gonna be there too.
Sounds like a cousin reunion waiting to happen.
Yeah, I think hopefully they'll play Cal and Stanford in the same week. So we'll get a little Bay Area road trip.
Double dip.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully Carolina's good because they did lose heartbreakingly to Stanford this year, and it kind of almost screwed up their entire season.
And that was one of Stanford's only wins, as far as I know.
Go, yeah, go Tree. In any case, who's the worst team that can win the NBA Finals this year, Jake?
Yeah, you asked me this, and I want to give an answer that that walks through a little bit of my thinking, because I started thinking about it. It's an interesting question, and the first thought I had was, well, it can't be a team from the East, and the reason I think it can't be a team from the East is you've got the two powerhouses there, and
right.
It's very hard to see anybody but Boston or Cleveland coming out of that conference, and so once you accept that, well, okay, it's obvious they're not the answer to either to the question of who's the worst team that could win. Those are really good teams, so they both could win. But can we see anybody else from that conference getting out? And no, the Pistons, nice story. They're not getting out of the East, and even if they did, they're not winning the title. So I sort of wiped out that conference, and then we go West, and okay, well, certainly, so who could win it? I think you talk about, like, we already we already jumped on the Grizzlies a little bit, so we'll knock them out of this conversation. But realistically, we jumped on the Rockets a little bit too. Even if you want to knock them out and say the other 6 teams in the West can all win potentially, the Thunder are certainly the overwhelming favorite. They have an amazing statistical case. We have some reason to suspect that they're at least vulnerable to some of these other really good teams. Less about them, more about the strength of the other teams. But so if it's somebody in the West, and we're not considering the Thunder as the poorest team that could win, then we're looking towards the bottom of the bracket. And I think the team that most pops to mind for me is the Minnesota Timberwolves. You're talking about a 6 seed that is going to be a dog in the first round. Probably more likely than not, they lose to the Lakers. Right? If I'm a betting man, I'm picking the Lakers.
There's no way you're a betting man. Have you ever placed a bet in your life?
Oh no. But if I were, right, that's
no.
thing.
Actually, we have.
Fantasize about it.
We've illegally bet at the sports track with our uncle. When we were underage, he placed bets on our behalf.
Yeah. I remember I bet on a horse named Jakey D, who was named after me, and then I bet on him. So
okay, statute limitations. We're not going to jail for that. Okay, be cool, everybody.
Yeah. That's it's I think more than 7 years. So okay. So Timberwolves. If I were a betting man and I bet on things other than horses at amateur tracks, they're probably going to lose in the first round. But if they could get by the Lakers, then they're in that Rockets Warriors winner. Could they get by that? Sure, plausibly, right? I don't think it's the most likely thing, but it's possible. It's a really deep team. Anthony Edwards is probably the guy that's capable of elevating his game enough to match up with those other first-team All-NBA type guys. The defense is there, the size. They're relatively versatile matchup-wise. So that's where my head goes on this one.
Yeah, so the Wolves were on my short list. They were. I'll reveal my team after the break, but we're not there yet. But the Wolves are on my list, and in part because I have a long-running theory about what it takes to win a championship, and it is that you need to be top 4 in offense or defense, and you could be no worse than 11th in the other one. Since 1983, only 8 teams have failed to hit this formula. Only 8 teams have failed to hit this formula that are not top 5 in either offense or defense and top 11 in the other one that is not their strength. Twice in the last 3 years, though, the Nuggets 5th in offense, 15th in defense, and the Warriors 17th in offense, but the number 1 overall defense. But those teams fall into another category, which is that if you're top 5 in one of the offense or defense, you've got a puncher's chance and also having one of the best players in the world. There's only been, since 1983, there's only been 3 teams that are not top 5 in at least one category to win a championship. And they're all the crazy teams that you know. They are the 1995 Rockets that traded for Clyde Drexler at the trade deadline, right? That
is your 1995.
My
Rockets
beloved Houston Rockets, the lowest seed to ever win to win a championship, the lowest most recent seed to win a championship, 6th seed. The 2006 Heat who were maybe gifted the championship by the officials. But it's, Dwayne Wade. And then it's the 2011 Mavs who were 8th on offense and 8th on defense. Still a very good team, but one of the great upsets or choke jobs in the history, or at least the modern history of the league. Like it is very rare. And by that token, the Wolves fit this. They are 8th on offense. And I'm doing this all based on Basketball Reference because that's the easiest way to look it up historically. Not my preferred metric, but the Wolves are right there in the mix. They are like I said, they're 8th on offense and 4th on defense. So they're top 4, top 8. They do have both a top 5 in one category and a top 11 in another category. To me, that's a championship level team. Plus they have that all NBA guy. Are you more confident in the Wolves this season than last season, Jake?
No.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Karl-Anthony Towns gave them a higher ceiling offensively than the Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo group. I mean, they're a little deeper than they were last year. I don't know if Rob Dillingham's going to get burned in the playoffs, but there could be a moment to unlock him. Nikhil's been a little bit better, probably. It continues to progress. I think the thing with, I think the top 5, in either category or sort of where there are offensive and defensive efficiencies falls is important. I think the other thing that makes the Wolves at least a reasonable dark horse is just their versatility. That, we've seen them match up exceedingly well with Denver. Now they're not going to face Denver, right? They're on opposite sides of the bracket. That's a Western Conference Finals. That's never going to happen. Realistically, one of them is gone before it gets there, but. Probably Denver, probably in the first round, probably both in the first round. But in any case, their size, right? They can go big. The 3 bigs, Randall, Reed, and Gobert, give them the opportunity to keep 2 bigs on the court at all times. They can go with a more shooting heavy lineup. They can go Reed at the 5 and move McDaniels to the 4 and play Naw at the 3 and kind of go that way. There's a lot of different ways they can play. And I think it gives Chris Finch enough options to be able to match up. And I don't see any team winning 4 playoff rounds, particularly in the West, 3 of them, without finding a way to match up with different styles of teams. And I like that about the Wolves.
Yeah, I think the sort of the toggling Naz Reid is really valuable because it gives them space. It gives them just different shapes. I'm with you on
Western
that.
Conference Bobby Portis.
Yeah. With less drug use, less trainers who just hand you a pill and say, here, take this, it'll help. That's just, I wouldn't recommend that for anyone. I'm not a medical professional. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. If your boy has something that's going to ease the pain, don't, and you're like, and you're going to get drug tested at work, don't take it. I wonder if you think this, and we could talk about this more later, but are the Warriors better than the Wolves?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're a lower seed.
So they wouldn't
right?
they wouldn't be on the list because we're talking the worst team. We're going further down the ladder. So in your opinion, the Warriors are further up the ladder. I think I agree with that too.
Could the Warriors win the title? Yes. Are they worse than the Wolves? No. Are they worse than they're probably less versatile. They're smaller. They're less athletic. They're probably not as deep, but they have a top 5 player in the world when he's right. They have another guy who's been there, done that. Multiple guys. I actually was referring to Butler, but it could have been Draymond, right? I mean, there's enough there that that we've just seen them do it so many times. We've seen them do it so many times that how can we say they're sort of not able to do it?
Yeah, that's how I feel too. It's like they weren't great in the play-in, but I still feel like, it's just like something Jimmy Butler in the spring. It's just dude's never scored 40 points in a regular season game in his life. And it's just, he quite literally never had 40 in a regular season game in his career. And my man knows when to turn it on. Okay. I want to share my worst team and we'll talk through that as well. Join us in the third segment, won't ya? First, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and you wonder, where did my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and just living your life and having fun, searching for a little entertainment in the world, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. So you can track all your accounts, all your investments, and all of your spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Basically, it's an app that can allow you to see all of your finances in one place. So you're not juggling multiple apps. You can track your spending and you can plan your long-term goals. But what's great about Monarch Money is it allows you to plan multiple savings goals at once. So say you have something that you want to spend or save for at the end of the month. Well, Monarch Money can help you plan a short-term goal right alongside your long-term goals. If you have larger investment plans down the line or bigger purchases you've got your eye on several moons into the future, Monarch Money is going to help you find it, help you get there, and it's going to make it smooth along the way. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. You get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, and the code is LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Still chatting here with my cousin Jake. You remember him from Jeremy Lin taking his spot on the Pally basketball team.
Ouch.
I mean, I don't know. A lot of people have lost their spots on the Pally on the basketball team in their time, but not to Jeremy Lin, not to future NBA champion Jeremy Lin.
I was really excited to watch the way his career unfolded, all the way up until he was coaching the G League team at the All-Star game this year. Great moment for Jeremy.
Yeah, and great moment for all Pally grads out there. Shout out to Jock Peterson and what's his
Devontae
face?
Adams.
Devontae Adams. Yeah, exactly. It's a storied program. I don't think East Chapel Hill High boasts such winners. Okay, I want to share mine with you. The worst team in my eyes that can win the NBA championship is the Los Angeles Clippers. Judging by my metric, the Clippers are not in the mix. They would be one of those outlier teams. They're 14th on offense, but they're third on defense. Some of this is like they're just different. Kawhi missed the first 50 games. They're just a different team. So it's like this is probably not a fair sample. In some ways, it was like if you looked at the Mavs last year, right? It's like they were just a different basketball team. A little bit different adding PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford versus adding Kawhi freaking Leonard to the mix. Do you think the Clippers could win the championship?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm big on the Clippers. I think they're the second best team in the West right now.
Wow.
Yeah. That's where that's my hot take. That's my hot take going into the postseason. Could also lose in the first round because they're playing the best player in the world. Then everybody is waiting for Kawhi's mid-series injury, and that could derail things. But that's a really good basketball team. I mean, they are as balanced as any team in the league right now. Ability to score in the half court with isolation guys, shooting, the Norm Powell Bogdanovich spot, former Blazer legend. The incredible growth from Zubats this year has just been remarkable.
Been awesome.
They're a really good team. You talked about their net rating or where they sort of fell in efficiency. Yeah, their net rating this year in the minutes played by the guys who are going to be in their playoff rotation puts them right in that top group. So could they win it? Absolutely.
Yeah,
they're the Clippers, so they won't. But could they? Yeah.
Yeah, even their unadjusted net rating is 5th in the NBA. Thunder 1, Cavs 2, Celtics 3, Minnesota Timberwolves 4, Clippers 5. So maybe
we picked this thing right.
Maybe we are not following our own sort of whatever ethos here of worst team. But I think this kind of fits when I think about like how to build a team that can win a title, right? It's like I think James Harden's going to make an All-NBA team this year, which I would not have guessed when the season started.
Would he make yours?
I don't know. I'd have to. He wouldn't make the first two for sure. But I think he would be, when I got to third team All-NBA, I would be like, oh yeah, freaking James Harden was awesome. I didn't think he deserved to make the All-Star team though. I was like, that's Zubats' spot. Like, he's not like the reason that the Clippers are good is because Zoo's been so good. But then James was just so good down the stretch. Like he was so good. I think it's
kind of him or Halliburton for sort of that last third team All-NBA. So,
yeah. And
pick your flavor.
I'm a low key Tyrese Halliburton doubter. I
Ooh,
like watching
kind of
him. I like
spicy,
watching him, but
yeah.
I like watching him play, but I'm kind of a doubter on whether he's on his ability to really raise a ceiling of a team beyond just a team that plays really fast and has Rick Carlisle. But it is like they fit it because they can play defense. They can play defense at point of attack, and they've got guys who can score when it matters. And I feel like it's the building out of the role players that really changed it for me for them. Derek Jones Jr. is just really useful. Chris Dunn is really useful. Like Chris Dunn is everyone's favorite pick for a dude who should make an all defense team, but isn't allowed to based on the rules. Like Zubats is, I mean, Zoo could make an all NBA team. I don't think he will, but like he's been that good. Like he's been awesome. And
If there were a fourth team, he's on it. Yeah.
and if they still had centers, if they had the old school like positions, like he would, I think, because I think he's been that good this season. And also the rules with eligibility, they got to change the rule one way, but also keep it a dumb way that they still have it.
Gotta have 3 centers, can't have Victor.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, well, Wemby can't be on the team, right? Yeah, like I think they're there. I wonder in the same question, like, are the Clippers better? I asked you, it's like, are the Clippers better than the Warriors? You think they're the second best team in the West? So on under your metric, I should be picking the Warriors, right?
Relative to the Clippers. Yeah, I mean, right, we just saw that matchup last game of the year, and
Right.
great game, right? Tremendous game. Two really high level teams. You know, I think you're splitting hairs when you talk about these Western teams. Really, I'll say 3 through 7, because 2 Houston's probably, despite their seed, a tier below this group. But you know, any of these teams, they're all in the same mix. For me, it's the Clippers, but you know, it's by such a slim margin. And you know, I think they're better in a playoff series than they are in the regular season, even because you know, not only Kawhi's ability to elevate them, but probably the one roster flaw on that team is the absence of a backup center. And they're so dependent on Zoo. And you know, I like the knuckleball look with Batum at the 5. Speaking of Blazer legends, right? Where maybe there's a soft spot here for these Clippers with their Nico and Norm bench unit. But you know, I just think that that the Clippers just have so much to offer, that they also are pretty matchup versatile. I talked about that with the Wolves. They can go bigger, they can go smaller, they can kind of match up and guard almost anybody. And like you said, the ability of Harden and Kawhi to generate offense kind of out of the mud when things slow down, get ugly in a playoff game, and they can make tough shots. Frankly, even Bogdanovich can do that, right? We've seen that. So, you know, I like what they're selling.
So is there a through line here for these teams? It seems like it's versatility, the ability to play a couple different shapes, and that sort of A1 like front line guy who you could say like, okay, there's, you know, we're taking a timeout just above the 3-minute mark, and we've got the ball down 3. How are we going to win the last 3 minutes by 4 type of thing? It's like, is there a through line beyond that you're seeing with your picks or your sort of like idea of what makes a championship level team?
Yeah, I think it's kind of 3 things. I think you alluded to one, right? So just the data, right? Okay, so what's their net rating? What's their offensive efficiency, defense efficiency? What's the balance kind of those things look like? 2, lineup versatility. You're going to face different teams in the postseason that are going to challenge you in different ways. You got to be able to match up. Some teams are going to go big. Some teams are going to crash the offensive glass. Other teams are going to space you out, play spread, pick and roll. Some teams are going to switch defensively. Others are going to be in a drop. Do you have the ability to beat all kinds of different opponents? And then the third thing, you know, for me, it's not just the 4 minutes or 3 minutes left, 4-point game. It's just over the course of a best of 7, can I reasonably say that I have the guy who has a good chance to be the best player in that series? And if I'm the Clippers, yes, right? And if I'm the Wolves, yes. And if I'm in the Warriors position, yes. Lakers, yes. Nuggets, yes. Rockets, no, right? There's almost no 7-game series where they're going to have the best player on the court, and that's why I think we're a little more down on them. And the Grizzlies, right? Same thing. So, and it ties back to our Blazer conversation.
Right, and I think that's exactly what I was trying to get to there, is like, how do the Blazers get to a place where they could get into a playoff series and say, and all those things, right? Like the regular season is too long, but it is indicative. Like it is in some ways indicative of how good you are. Obviously there's weird outliers years. Obviously, like I would say the Mavs run with the big trades and Kawhi playing freaking 27 games or whatever he did. But like for the most part, what you do during regular season shows if you're good or not, but it's to get into those playoff series and say our best guy is capable of being the best player on the floor. And I feel like that is what you're hunting for. And that's kind of what this frustration, maybe not frustration for all Blazer fans, but some of the mystifying part of what's next for the Blazers is, where does that guy come from? Like where does that, is he on the roster? And if he is, how quickly does he present himself to make it clear so you can start building that direction? And if he's not on the roster, how the heck do you get one of them? Like where do they come from? And I think that's that is like, when you are on the outside looking in, that is that like the dude is a big point of jealousy, I think. And as a Pelicans fan, you've had various versions of the dude, but haven't been able to
still manage to botch it. So it's not a failsafe, right? You can have the dude, and you can win a playoff series once every couple decades.
Now that's a type of hopeful note to send you all into the weekend, baby. Anything is possible, including blowing it once you figure it out. Jake, this was a real treat. Thanks so much for chatting with me. We do this a lot in our text messages, so I'm glad we got to bring it to the masses. Shout out to your mom and my dad, who are definitely listening, and maybe your dad too. We'll see.
Hey, as many family members as we can get to tune in, it really warms the heart. So I'm pumped to make a text thread turn into a conversation with some video and some audio, and just really pleased to be here. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it was truly a blast. Dear listeners, here's a good thing. I do these all stinking off season long, 5 days a week until the middle of August. You're not getting Blazer coverage like this anywhere else. So do me a favor and tell your friends about the program. Tell them they can get it wherever they get podcasts, and also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.